Welcome once again, Lightbringers, to our second live stream for Massive Darkness, Dungeons of Shadowreach. First of all, thank you very much. If you're backing, if you're following, if you're just part of the campaign, we really appreciate it. We've had a lot of exciting things going on since we launched. In today's live stream, we're going to be talking about some of those, looking back over the last 2 days, but we're also going to be having some pretty exciting reveals. Today, once again, I have Marco, one of the co-designers of the game, with me, along with Nick, the producer. It's just the three of us today. We're going to be doing what we can. Welcome, Marco and Nicholas. We've got some exciting things to cover. We want to talk about some of the comments that we've seen since the launch until now, and probably one of the biggest, I think the two of you would agree, that we've seen since even before the campaign was about a potential French translation of the game. So we've got great news for our French backers. We are going to have a French translation. It is incoming. We are still working on the solution, but we just wanted to give you an idea that it is coming. We can tell you that for sure. We're going to have probably a second add-on pack that covers all of the content from Dungeons of Shadowreach in French. So we're trying to meet you halfway and get something in your hands. Hopefully this addresses the outcries that we've had for this. But it is one of the things we wanted to talk about. We will have more details on that in the coming days, probably early next week, but don't hold me to that. But just be assured that it is coming. There are some other comments, Nick. I think you saw some comments over the last couple of days that we might want to address right off the top.
Yep. So I've been seeing some confusion with the French, not the French pack. I mean the class pack. So the class pack will provide you all the class components and the heroes you would need to play all the previous classes from the expansions of Massive Darkness 2 in Dungeons of Shadowreach. So if you are a backer that got all in for Massive Darkness 2, there's no reason for you to purchase this class pack. This class pack is designed for people who have joined Massive Darkness 2 after the campaign or are just joining us for this current campaign. So just wanted to clarify that for everyone who is a little bit confused why the class pack exists.
Yeah, I'd happen to see a comment of someone saying, oh, if they had that, that would be great. And all you need to do is scroll way down to see that it exists down there at the bottom of the page. We do have all those classes from the last release. So take a look for that. I saw another comment too, just asking for a little bit more detail on the Underspire campaign box. The good news is we have an update coming for that very soon, so we'll go into more detail there. But I did have some questions myself as a fan of the game. Marco, can you tell us a little bit about the Underspire campaign box?
Okay, yeah. So the Underspire campaign box is just like the Heavenfall box was for Hellscape. So it provides all the components that you need to play the game as a campaign. All the 6 to 10 cards and decks for items and mobs and roaming monsters. And you can play any campaign with that. So you can use that campaign box to play any expansion that have campaign as well. So it's like a expansion that makes you be able to play a campaign with Shadowreach, you know. It also has the skills from level 6 to 10 for all the classes that comes from in Shadowreach. So you have the Chronomancer 6 to 10, Cleric, all classes, because you need these extra components when playing the campaign since you go from 1 to 10 in level. Not only that, we have the scenarios to play the Underspire campaign that has a special mechanic that it has the emissary, which is an NPC that all players can control. And not only that, if you want to play one shot, you can use the emissary as a hero, as a Chronomancer. It's an extra hero that you can use in your one-shot games as well. I don't want to spoil much of the story for the campaign, but you follow the emissary and he gives you like the directions to what to do on the campaign, you know.
Yeah,
and
I
you
have
can
to
control
say,
him during the quests.
This is just another example, again, as sort of the new guy here and as a fan of the series, seeing all these things from behind the scenes has been really exciting. So I'm sure you're all out there pretty excited to hear about it too. One other thing before we get on to some of the stretch goals that have been unlocked, I wanted to talk about Massive Darkness as a property. It looks like there's been still a little confusion out there among some of you, maybe among some of the content creators out there doing content as to, is it Massive Darkness 2? How does everything connect? Marco, Nick, do you want to give a brief overview of kind of where we're headed with that? Because in essence, this game is compatible with what was Massive Darkness 2, Hellscape, but not the original. So the original sort of built into what we led to with Massive Darkness 2. And now we're just going to be calling it Massive Darkness in general, because for the foreseeable future, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, we're going to be embracing that core system with this and future releases in the series.
Yep.
Exactly.
So all future reprints of Massive Darkness 2, for this current batch, you might still see the tool still on Hellscape, but further down the line, you may not even see it anymore. They will apply for Heaven's Fall and all expansion packs that would hit retail shelves. So we would be calling this entire product line Massive Darkness.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hopefully that clears it up. I'm sure it probably won't for everyone, but if you have questions, just let us know. We'll try to continue to explain it for you. But now on to some exciting stuff. We want to talk about some of the things that we've unlocked. Not all of them. We're going to try to keep this stream a little bit shorter, but we've got some unlocked stretch goals that we want to go through. Marco has some details that he wants to share with you about sort of the idea behind some of them. Let's take a look at the first one. This is Hob. He's an herbalist. Marco, do you want to tell us what may be slightly unique about Hob?
The thing about Hob is that, well, the herbalist can craft potions, can brew potions, of course, but he also can access the potions from the deck. So the potions, the consumables that you draw from the deck, like the health potions, sometimes there's a sprint potion that gives action, something like that. You use it and you discard it. And Hob can use his herbs to get back those potions. So not only he can brew the herbalist potions, but also potions from the deck. That's the special thing about him, you know.
That's cool. So he's getting every last drop of those potions that he makes.
Yes. He used the potions that you draw from the deck with these herbalists.
It's very cool. And as we go through some of these, I'd love to hear in the comments, and maybe we can talk about it at the end of the stream, what some of the favorites are among all of you out here who are following the campaign in terms of the new hero classes. But what's the next one? Oh, we've got the leader minion of Hognol. I'd love to hear a little bit about the inspiration behind this one, for sure, if there is some.
Well, yeah, the idea is that when the hero is wounded, he can smell the scent of blood and he gets angrier and hits harder. That basically it. So if it starts, if one of the starting mobs, it's not that threatening because you're still full life. But at middle of the game, if it comes up and it will hit harder at you because you're already wounded, you know.
Yeah, these look awesome. And I was telling Marco before we started the stream, this is going to be one of those mobs that when you flip it first in a scenario, everyone's going to be like, awesome, it came out first. None of us are wounded. But the longer you play,
Exactly.
if it comes out late, it's not such a good character. The next one is a roaming monster. It's the Porcupangolin. That's a mouthful to say, but Marco, what can you tell us about this one?
So what's special about the Porcupangolin is that he uses a special token, the Thorn token. And when he activates, he places Thorn tokens on the board that they actually have an effect on the board. So every time a hero leaves a space with a Thorn, he takes a wound. So it messes with the scenario, you know? And now you have like these tokens that are messing with your movement. And of course, if you are in a Thorn token, he does special stuff. So it's a roaming monster that changes the map, you know.
Yeah, none of the mobs since the original Massive Darkness, we haven't seen much of this sort of mechanic, right? So
Yeah,
this is
this
kind
is
of new.
a hair type of mechanic. It's kind of new, that those tokens that do something on the board, it's very new from this campaign.
Yeah, it's awesome. The next one we want to talk about is not a roaming monster. It's not a mob. It is one of the classes, and we bring this one up in particular because this is one of the dual classes. We're showing the paladin version of Glendor right here, but Glendor can be a paladin or a cleric, right?
Yes. So
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
course, if you're backing this game, you are gonna get the cleric class and not the paladin class. So you can use Glendor as a cleric. But if you have the Hellscape box, you can flip the card and you have the paladin hero. So you can choose when playing with Glendor if you want to play with paladin or a cleric. So you have this option for what class he will be.
And just to be clear, you meant the Underspire box, right?
No, I meant the Shadowreach and Hellscape. So
Oh,
in
okay.
Shadowreach, you have the cleric, and Hellscape have the paladin class.
All right.
So this is it's cross compatible with the previous
All right.
box, you know.
Yep, these are nice bonuses for people who own MD2. So, and those of you who saw the stretch goals initially were confused by them. These are not heroes just for Massive Darkness 2. These are actually a way for us to reward people who have backed or have copies of MD2 to have something a little bit extra to vary up the gameplay while if they choose to back Dungeons of Shadowreach.
Very cool.
Yeah, the thing is, they all work with Dungeons of Shadowreach. They all have a class from Dungeons of Shadowreach and another class from Hellscape. The dual classes are always one from Shadowreach and one from Hellscape. Because we're adding new content for the game, and we also wanted to make sure that the old classes also have more options. You know, it's the same system, so the classes are still giving we're still giving more heroes for that classes, you know.
Yeah, and we can't give away all the details, but we will be seeing more dual classes throughout the rest of the campaign as well.
For sure.
So stay tuned for that. The last one we have here before our special reveal is Medusa. What can you tell us about Medusa? I'm just going to guess she can petrify you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's it. That's the classic Medusa. If you look at her, you get petrified. So when she activated, she frosts someone and they lose an action, basically. And also when she attacks because of the snakes, she also poisons you. So that's all about the Medusa. She can petrify you and poison you. Venom.
Was the Venom Alex's idea to add to this one in particular?
For sure.
We all know how much he loves Venom.
That. Yeah, it's his favorite condition.
All right, so those are just some of the things that we've unlocked. Of course, we're going to be unlocking a lot more. We appreciate all the support we've really gotten thus far. Thank you very much for that. But today, the thing you probably tuned in most for is to find out what the big reveal is. So we have a little bitty trailer for you to take a look at. I just love watching the trailers. That is, we're really happy with that one. I think my favorite part, and Marco and Nicholas we all just saw this for the first time very recently. But my favorite part of that is that quiet moment where you're looking over the side of the boat into the water, and it's like, is it too quiet? And of course it is. And as you could guess from that trailer and what you're looking at right now, this is Sunken Temple. It brings a lot to the game, but first and foremost, it brings a lot of water, right, Marco?
Yes. So this is a campaign expansion. It comes with like a lot of scenarios. We wanted for the expansions for this campaign to all be filled with gameplay. So you have scenarios, you have new mobs, you have a new mechanics. So you have a lot of things to improve the game. It's a huge box with a lot of content. And you are all the setting of the expansion is that you are in a sunken temple, so there's a lot of water. There are water zones that affect your movement. There are enemies that are from the sunken temple, so they're the Runakin and the Merlin, so they get better if they are on water. There's the tentacles from the Kraken that are there attacking you. It's all about being underwater and fighting those creatures.
Yeah, speaking of the creatures, there were some eagle-eyed followers of the campaign that had seen in some of the RPG content that we put out some of the artwork for some of the creatures. So I think there's been a lot of people anticipating seeing some of them, and we'll get to those in a second. But we do want to talk a little bit more about some of the specific mechanics here and how the water works. So the first is just what the water tiles look like in general. We've got some of them splayed out here, along with one highlighting something called river flow, which we'll get to in a second. But Marco, do you want to tell us a little bit more specifically about how the water can come into play?
Okay, so all the quests from this expansion, they use the water tiles and the water spaces. When you move out from a water space to a space without water, you have to spend one extra movement point. So it's harder to move out of water. If you are moving inside the water, of course, you don't need to spend more than one. But if you're moving out, you get to spend one more movement point. So it's harder to move around those spaces because there are spaces that are inside water and other spaces that are not. And of course, you still have these shadow and light spaces of massive darkness. But overall, that's the main mechanic. There are some water spaces that are difficult to move around.
Yeah, and there's
the river flow.
River flow,
Okay,
please.
sorry. It's a special mechanic from one of the quests where there's a river that goes either clockwise or counterclockwise based on you can activate levers to change the water flow, and you can only move following the water flow, so the river flow. So you have to take that into account when moving around because you can go back.
Yeah, I have to say that scenario sounds like one of the more chaotic ones to navigate for sure. I was reading the document that we have for it, and it sounds wild. Now, with the water, as you can see on these tiles, there's a ton of water on them, but there is a way to sort of better navigate that because there are some things you can do to make some zones filled with water and not. And these are the water or wood tokens.
Yeah, we use these tokens on the quest to make some of the water spaces able to floor. They transform into floor spaces, and some floor spaces transform into water spaces. So we have this dynamic thing where some of the spaces there are water can transform into floor spaces, and floor spaces can be water, and you use that depending on the quest.
Yeah, is that going to be through available in all of the quests, or are there specific quests that utilize that?
There are specific quests that utilize them, not all of them.
I see. The next part has little to do with water, or I'm sure some of it might have a little bit to do with water, but it's Marco's favorite thing about this one, and he wants to talk about it a lot, and that is the torment challenges. Let's take a look at these things. Let us know how this works, Marco.
Okay, so one thing that we wanted for the expansion was that it had some a new challenge. Just like we had the challenges from the Shadowreach box, we added a challenge in this expansion, so you can make the game harder if you want. This one is based on like side quests. There are at the start of the game, you randomize 3 side quests, and you place these tokens on the darkness track on the 4, 6, and 8 space. And you have to do something before the darkness track reaches the spot. Otherwise, you're going to suffer something for the rest of the game. So there are some like mini side quests, like everyone must be on water, everyone must be on shadow, everyone must have a consumable item in hand, something like that. And you have this deck of like 7 options for each of the quests, and you show them randomized one at the start of the game. So I'm really excited about it because you can add this to any game, not just for Sunken Temple. Of course, when playing with Sunken Temple, you always use that, quests. That's something that's you have to use them. And if you're playing the campaign, because you can play either one shot or campaign with the Sunken Temple. If you're playing the campaign, if you actually do the side quests, you get bonuses. You get like special items from the campaign deck. You may get some companion or some special skill if you actually complete the side quests.
We don't usually do this. We have one question that popped up, and I can't help but ask you, Marco, because it's on my mind too. And the answer might be no, so be prepared. But can a frost or freeze token, can it freeze a water space, or can it interact with the water at all?
Well, they don't interact with the spaces, but a lot of the monsters from this expansion use frost token in some way.
Excellent. Speaking of the monsters from this expansion, let's take a look at some of them. Like we said, you've seen some of these in, I think, some of the RPG content that we put out there, maybe in the quick start guide. But let's take a look at the mobs from this expansion. First is the Merling.
So speaking about frost tokens, the Merlins can add frost tokens to the heroes. And of course, as you can see, if they are in a water space, they get stronger. So they have an automatic monster icon in the attack. So it's easier for them to trigger their ability, This is common for all monsters in this expansion. They get stronger in the water. You can use them, of course, in any game, but if you use them in the quest from Sunken Temple, they are more threatening,
Yeah, of course. If you ever wanted this game to be more difficult, I hope you know that you're getting it. Based on our last live stream and this one so far, the game can be more difficult if you want it. So we hope you're happy about that. One thing we want to talk about with all of these enemies, though, it's kind of unique to these scenarios. Can you talk to us a little bit about how these enemies will come into play? Because if they're not on the board, they kind of take priority, right, in terms of coming back out?
So since we are underwater in the Sunken Temple, in each quest in this campaign, in this box, even if it's one shot or campaign, every time you're gonna summon a mob, if there are no mobs from this expansion, you have to draw one from this expansion, even if they're already dead, so they can come back. So there's always a monster from water in the quest from Sunken Temple.
Yeah, that's cool. And again, making it that much more difficult getting these guys out there. Let's take a look at the next one. This is the Ranekin.
Yes, it's another water-related enemy. So they have like bonus for defense, and if they are inside the water, they get even more stronger. And they are based on frogs. They are awesome. I love the miniatures.
Yeah, all of these very reminiscent of all sorts of things from all sorts of fantasy properties. I love the inspiration with a lot of these things. Let's take a look at the next. These, by the way, get more and more exciting and certainly bigger and bigger.
Yeah, so this is
everyone loves a frog
dragon
character, but this one is a turtle.
Yeah, so the dragon turtle is a roaming monster for the box. Of course, it gets stronger if it's on the water. It has a similar mechanic of always appearing, because whenever you summon a roaming monster, you roll a die, and if you roll a retaliate icon, it comes into play. So it has always this change that the dragon turtle will return, And of course, if it's on the water, he goes. If you are on a water space, it goes directly to your space and attacks you. So you have to be very careful when playing against the dragon turtle, because it can move swiftly through the water and get to you.
Yeah, again, I love how well you weave the theme into the mechanics of the game. It's really, really cool. And if you liked the giant worm from our first live stream and what you've already seen, you're going to like the next one, maybe even more. Let's take a look at the Kraken.
Okay, so yeah, this is the boss of the box. in these boxes we always have a final boss that you play against in the campaign, and this is the Kraken. And a special thing about the Kraken is that it affects all other quests as well. So even though you only fight the Kraken in the last quest, for the other quests the tentacles are there, but they're just hazards. There's things that mess with your plans. They attack you, but you can't attack back. So they attack and go away and go to another space. There's this living thing in the scenario where the tentacles are messing around with you. And of course, in the last quest, you fight the boss, but you can only hit the head. And in the final quest, there's this ship where everyone can move around, and there's cannons on the ship. So you can go there and do a big attack against the head if the head is in the right spot, because the head also moves around the map. And the boss fight is really interesting because of you have to go to a specific space to shoot the cannon, and the tentacles are there attacking you, and the head moves around. It's very interesting. It's a really great job from Kelly Cruz and Toivon Glenn. They are the developers for the game that design work in this box. They designed some of the content of this box as well.
Yeah, a boss fight that feels like a good old-fashioned video game boss fight, where you really have to do some creative things to take care of it. And I don't know if you mentioned this, but the interesting thing about that sort of ever-present Kraken in all of the scenarios is those tentacles will effectively come out in different zones depending on the scenario, right? There's tokens you'll put out, and then there's a die roll that brings the tentacles out on different zones between rounds.
Yes, there are tokens with the icons from the monster die, and at the end of the turn, when the enemies activate, they attack you if you are adjacent to them, and then you roll a die to see where they spawn again. So they are always moving around and attacking and moving. That's how they work.
I love the idea of the boss of the scenario being present always, and it makes such perfect sense for the Kraken. We've never had anything like that, right? In Massive Darkness?
No.
Yeah, that is really cool.
It's also the first boss with that many plastic, that many pieces.
For those of you who want a sense of scale of how big the tentacles are, this is one of them. This is your hero miniature.
That's just one of the tentacles. Nice.
Yep. So they come in 4 various scopes. So we have medium-sized tentacles and 2 small ones too. So yeah, gives you a good variety of the 8 tentacles, so it's all not the same sculpt.
Yeah, I think Nicholas is just bragging again that he has the miniatures and that we don't. And I promise
I have the kit too.
Yeah, he has a lot. And in fact, on the next live stream, we will make sure to showcase those in a little bit more detail so that you can see them. So and maybe have some rotating miniatures for you. Is that everything on the Kraken, Marco?
Yes.
All right. So that is all of that we wanted to share about Sunken Temple today, about a lot of the unlocks that we've had. We want to thank you once again, but we do want to take some of your comments. Before that, we do want to announce the next live stream. We will have another live stream. This live stream is going to be next Friday. Yes, that is February 14th. For those of you who celebrate Valentine's Day, it's Valentine's Day. So be our Valentine and join us for that live stream, where we will have an overview of more of the unlocks that we have between now and then, as well as another reveal towards the end of the campaign. So be sure to join us for that. But let's take a look at some of the comments that we've had. We have access to a lot more of them now.
Okay. So there's
anyone,
a question
Nick, do you
about
see any of
the campaign.
Yeah. I've seen some questions on the campaign mode. Yep. This, if you notice the topic cards at the bottom, it does say campaign. So if you own the Underspire expansion, or if you own even Heaven's Fall, right, you could play the campaign mode for this 4 quests that comes in this expansion box.
Yeah, it also comes with a campaign deck similar to the one from Heavenfall and Underspire, with like secret stuff that you unlock during the campaign. as I was saying, if you manage to complete the torment cards, the side quests, you get to get those campaign cards that are really interesting.
I don't know that we can answer this one, but Vintage Bullet asks, show us that Frogkin Cleric. He wants to play as a frog. I don't know that we can reveal anything. I don't know that you'll be playing as frogs, but I like the idea. So it says...
It could be something cool. But
Nick, is there any other questions that you see that we want to address?
It's mainly all the campaign modes. Are the enemies from this expansion in the D&D RPG books? Yes.
Yeah.
Every creature that appears in our stretch goals and in future expansions, if there are any, will also all be in the RPG books.
Someone also asked, do the campaigns still have the side quests that unlock extra benefits? This comes from Peachy Prieto.
Yes. So the Sunken Temple, as I said, most of the side quests are related to the Torment Challenge module. But for example, in the Underspire campaign, the side quests are related to the Emissary. As I was saying, there's this Emissary that is always in the quests helping you. And if you do some special things with him, you get to unlock some special campaign cards.
Looks like we're having more and more ideas being thrown around. And I have to admit, I do the same thing. Now that I'm here, Marco will tell you, I'll send him messages all the time saying, oh, are we doing this? This would be cool. Someone's asking for a pirate class somewhere down the road. So we'll have to see. No promises, but we'll have to see.
Someone was also asking for forest expansion and recently mimics and treasure traps. Those sound really cool too.
They do sound really cool. If only we were doing more and more Massive Darkness products in the future. Another question here, just about the campaign. Are we sharing, Marco, how many missions or scenarios the campaign is in this box?
It's 4. There's 4 quests that you play. It's like a mini campaign, right? The Heavenfall and the Underspire campaign have 8 quests, but this campaign has only 4. Just like Rainbow Crossing had 4, and Demon Dragon also had only 4. So it's a small campaign.
And this is a comment I've seen before. Someone wants a loot goblin. Someone wants a little monster running around the dungeon. I have to say, I have to agree. Too much Devlin. I have to agree. I would love to see a loot goblin. And speaking of loot, I do want to say, as a fan of the series, I feel like I've let you down. We've let you down on the live stream. We haven't shown you a lot of the loot. We don't want to spoil a lot of the loot because a lot of that, seeing that for the first time as you're exploring and playing the game, is a lot of fun. With that said, I'll see if I can get a couple of the loot cards from this whole campaign to show next week on our live stream, because it is one of my favorite things about the game. The hero classes are fantastic, but the other thing is all the loot. Like, just everything you get in this game is fantastic. So I promise we will show you some of those a little bit more on next week's live stream. Were there any other questions or comments you guys wanted to make before we sign off? Marco?
I think it's that.
No. Well, with that, we will see you next Friday. Again, continue to follow the campaign. We appreciate all of the support. And we're going to sign off once again this week with another look at that little trailer for Sunken Temple.